Welcome back to another episode of Girls Sing the Podcast. We can be found on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Wherever you found us and are listening today, feel free to give us a like, comment, other episodes you want us to do, and follow along. And today we are talking about week in the life and what that looks like.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's going to be good, going to be fun. I think that our schedules look very different. Kaile, Judge, and I live very different lives. We also live across the country from each other. And so just all of the things look different. And I don't know. It's just a fun, casual episode. Just the girlies chatting, yapping it up as per usual. I guess my first question, Kaile, Judge, to you is, and I kind of know the answer to this for you, I feel like, because I know you. But if someone followed you around for a week, would they think that you are unhinged or that you have it all together? If someone just literally came to your house at 7 a.m. and was like, let me follow around Kaile Judge, what would they think about you?
I think they would think I'm an exhausting person. Only because for instance, today, there's a Sprouts, which is a grocery store near my house, that used to open at 6:30. Apparently, recently, they now open at 7. I show up at 6:30 because I needed some groceries, and I was very upset. So I think for some people, the rhythm at which I live my life, they'd be like, this chick is nuts. But I do get stuff done, so maybe they think I have it together with a little side of chaotic going on. What about you, though?
That's so funny. Yeah, I definitely, when I think about you, I do think of you having it all together, for sure, of just, like, you are regimented and all the things. Kaile is the person that taught me, kind of through watching her life, taught me how to wake up early and go to the gym before early days and stuff. And so I think if they followed me around, they'd be like, this is a lot. There's a lot in an unhinged way. And like, I have a strict routine when I work. Not as strict when I'm not working, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the other day I was going to work, and before I go to work, I boil 3 eggs to take with me to work. And so I'm in this new apartment, and it's my first day going to work from this apartment. So my routine is the same, but things just look a little different of like, where is stuff, and me learning all those things since I just moved. And so I turn on the eggs, and it's a different stove and all the things, and it's electric, and my old stove was gas. Just like the minor things that genuinely make a difference in your life. And I go and I'm like, why are these eggs boiling? It's time for me to leave. And the wrong stove is on, like the wrong actual thing is on. And I'm like, I gotta make oatmeal then, you know? And so just like rerouting. And so, yeah, I think there's many aspects like that where people will be like, oh. And then, of course, I work in the ER. So that is just nuts. So I definitely think more unhinged for me personally. But I mean, yeah. Organized chaos is how I like to think about it.
Yes. Yeah. There is a schedule going on, but some side excursions to said plan also occurring, which is totally fine. While we're kind of on the topic of work being crazy and all this stuff, we're going to kind of break this episode up into the different kind of areas or days of our lives within the week. And so I'm going to have Makayla go first, mainly because her work schedule is not a typical Monday through Friday. I'm in the office for 8 hours a day and I have a lunch break type of thing. As I'm sure everyone who's been listening knows, Makayla is an ER nurse. And if you know anything about nurses, they have very different schedules than an office worker person. So I'm actually very curious, Makayla, what does a day in your life when you're working look like?
Yeah, okay. So, very good question. Typically, my goal is to work out before work, and then sometimes I'll do after, things like that. So, what that will look like is waking up between 4 and 4:30. Now that I live in an apartment, I didn't live in an apartment before, I would have to drive to the gym. So, now that I live in an apartment, though, I can walk a minute to my gym, which is crazy. So, that's a fun thing. So, I literally, get up between 4 and 4:30, work out, come back, get ready, have breakfast. I either always have overnight oats stored, or I boil some eggs, heat up some turkey bacon, and then drive and eat while I'm on my way to work, because I don't like to eat at work because it's just an unknown variable, because I could get to work and it'd be the craziest time ever, and then it's 10 a.m. and I haven't eaten and I've just worked out. And so eat on the way to work. We'll listen to do worship music or listen to my friends' audio messages on the way to I feel like every moment of my life is filled. And this has been a thing recently that I feel like the Lord is like, you need to chill out, because I am like, oh, I need to listen to this, or I'm sending a voice memo. I'm talking to people. Recently, I've been trying to listen to more worship music. I've been doing, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, the worship initiatives, like worship with them is it's a Devo, and you'd sing and listen to them talk about the Lord in the mornings. And so, yeah, by the time I get to work, I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been up for hours. I've gotten a bunch done. I've checked things off of my to-do list. I've responded to texts and emails and all the things typically. And yeah, so then I work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and that can look so different every single day, obviously, from working with children, like pediatrics or adults. I can be in different areas. I can be one of the trauma nurses who's there when a trauma patient comes in, or I can be like the triage nurse, one of the nurses up front that checks you in and figures out what's going on with you and kind of figures out where you go in the ER. A lot of people don't understand that. I always say the ER has a front door and a back door. And so sometimes the people who come through the front door, who walk in and drive, are like, why am I waiting so long? But I know other people have been rushed back before me. It's because sometimes our back door is being flooded with people that need to be seen quicker than the people in the front door and things like that. And so I get to be a part of that process and caring for people and all the progression of their care while they're in the emergency department. And then I come home and I'm very strict about I think the ER is disgusting. And so I come home and immediately close off in the shower. That is the first thing. I don't sit down. I don't do anything until that has been done. And then I'll eat dinner. And if I'm working the next day after that, then it's like we're eating dinner, I'm reading my Bible or catching up on texts or whatever that looks like. And then I'm going to bed, and I'm trying to be in bed by 8:45, 9-ish, so that I can wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning the next day. So it's a wild, it's a time. It's very, very regimented. But then the in-between, like the 12 hours, look crazy chaotic. One moment I'm sitting like yapping, and then the next we're running around doing crazy things, or, who knows what happens in the in-between. But I try to keep it pretty like regimented, the before and after.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now what, you work the same hours each shift, right?
Yes, yeah. I work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every shift, yeah. Which actually, though, that's such a good point. I'll add this, and then I'll be done talking about my work. But on top of being an ER nurse, I'm also a sexual assault nurse examiner. The acronym is SANE for short. And so that looks very different, where I'm on call for specific hours during the week. And so what will happen is on days that I'm not working in the ER, because I only work 3 days a week, and then I can pick up and work more, but that's my required hours is 36 hours a week. And so when I'm not there, a lot of times will be on call waiting for a sexual assault victim to come in. Not waiting, but will be on call for when a victim does come in, and then I have to go to the hospital. So the last few times I've gotten called in has been at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I have a pager on my phone, and it is so loud, it is scary, and it will wake me up, and then I will call the hospital and figure out the details and what's going on and what needs to be done, and then I make my way over. So that is also another aspect. And not everyone does that. That's my own thing. I started doing that somewhat recently through my hospital, but that's another aspect of my job that is very unconventional to the average person who works 9 to 5. So crazy.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, like Makayla said, very different than, and like I had said, very different than a usual kind of office job situation. So I'm going to explain kind of my work day, and it is totally different than Makayla's, because I do financial planning for families, and we manage their assets. So we do investment management too. And I work 7 to 4. And so before work, usually I'm up, go to the gym. I've packed my breakfast, so I eat it once I get to work. And then at work can look a little bit different, but I'm never saving someone's life. That is for sure. To them, it might feel that way, but that's not actually what's going on. So we'll have client meetings usually every day. Mondays, we don't have client meetings. We'll have what's called our investment committee. So our whole team meets together. We talk markets and our investments, and we have team meeting and all that good internal stuff. But then throughout the week, oftentimes I am in client meetings, meeting with families, and then usually doing back end work. So pretty much always at the office. And I'm not hybrid, work from home or anything. We're in the office every day, 7 to 4, and meeting with people, building out financial plans, talking to CPAs. Occasionally I'll have events. So I'll go to, there's something called the Charitable Gift Planners event, and they're like monthly meetings I go to. There's another organization called Kingdom Advisors, so I go to their monthly meetings. So it is kind of broken up a little bit. And then occasionally, if we have a client that has a new attorney or CPA, we'll go get lunch with them just to meet them and figure out kind of what their deal is, I guess you could say, to vet them a little bit and figure out their personality. So that's always fun to get out of the office too. We'll occasionally have client events as well. Like in a couple weeks, we're having a pasta making event. So a chef is coming to our office and we're having clients in. And for, I think it's like 4 hours, we're making homemade pasta, learning how to make a sauce, and then like it's starting in the morning and then we'll eat the pasta we made for lunch. So kind of fun, very random. We'll host like baseball games and stuff. So we'll go watch baseball games with our clients and very random things. But most of the time in the office, client meetings, answering their needs and being attentive to them. Like I said, I get off at 4 and it really depends what happens after that. Sometimes, so on Tuesday nights, usually I have Bible study. The rest of the week, though, who's to say what's happening? I might be meeting up with a friend for dinner. The other night, I had some girls over to my place and hosted a mahjong night. Sometimes Makayla's in shock.
I didn't know you played mahjong. Why haven't we talked about this? Because I play mahjong.
So when I was in, Makayla and I went to the wedding of our other roommate a couple weeks ago. While I was there, I stayed with my parents. My fiance Rocco and I stayed with my parents, and my mom started playing mahjong. So she had the app, the mahjong app, and she's like really into it. And so my dad was like, "Oh, she's been playing it on this app. Let me get her a set of mahjong." Well, come to find out, the app where you play mahjong is not mahjong. It is totally, it's not even close actually. So they didn't really know how to play. They tried to play just like the app, I guess, and obviously that's not how it works. So while I was there, I watched a myriad of different YouTube videos, and we all learned together and played a couple times. And I was like, this is so fun. I love this. And so when I got home, I ordered a mahjong set and have since taught my friends how to play. So then I have people here I can play with. But I think we talked about it while we were at the wedding because I knew you had a set, and so I must have asked you about it.
Okay, yes. The story's ringing a bell. I remember you being like, my mom is playing on this app. I didn't know in the last month since I've seen you that you've gotten into it, but I'm so excited about that. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Well, okay, so I guess my question to you is that, do you feel like, because this is something that, like, my life looks so different. I don't have, you know how people will be like, this is what my 5 to 9 looks like after my 9 to 5 or whatever, that kind of thing. I don't have that. I have 12 hours of being able to eat, sleep, get up, and go to work the next day, you know? In terms of I'm like, I don't have that much time, unless I'm not working the next day, obviously. But I'm so curious, what do you feel like? Do you feel like you have enough time after work to do things and to get regular life things done or to see people? Because I oftentimes don't. Sometimes I'll see people after work, but not very, very frequently. And then I'm not going to the dentist or those types of things after work. So I'm so curious what that feels like for you and your job.
Yeah, great question. So touching really quickly on doctors, I work at a company, I think there's 15 of us right now. Very small firm. We have 2 locations. Well, small people wise, maybe not client base wise, but we have 2 office locations, and we don't need to take PTO or anything to go to a doctor's appointment. So I'll go to my doctor's appointment. I'll try to do the first appointment they have or in the afternoon. So it's the last hour of my workday or something. So I'm not wasting time, but I don't have to take time off or go after work. So that does free up a lot of my time. There are some times where life's really busy, a lot's going on, and I feel like I don't have time after work to get the things done that need to be done. For instance, this past month, my fiance and I got a new car, and we decided we'd just put it in both of our names because we're about to get married, and then I'll just add it to my car insurance because my renewal was coming up. Well, it was like a whole mess. It was a whole thing, and then the whole insurance, it was just terrible. And so basically every day after work for 3 days straight, as soon as I'd get home until late at night, I was like on the phone with insurance companies. So that was terrible. So sometimes that happens. A lot of times after work, I am working on podcast stuff, editing videos, working on posting them. But honestly, I have a lot of free time, I feel like. I can make dinner. I can bake some cookies after work. I can go for a walk. If I want to work out twice a day, I don't really have a time crunch. I can do that. The only thing would be sometimes at the end of a work day, which I'm sure everyone experiences no matter what field you're in, your battery is absolutely at 0%. And so even though I have the time occasionally, depending on what clients I met with that day, my emotional battery is at 0. And so I'm like, I'm just going to sit here, which is fine. But yeah, I definitely have a lot more flexibility than per se someone in like your role or someone with maybe a higher stress job, because I wouldn't say that my job brings me a ton of stress on a consistent basis. There are definitely moments where I'm like, oh crap. But most of the time, pretty chill.
No, that's so fair. And that answers my question well. And I just was so curious because I'm like, man, like, what does that look like and feel like for other people? But I love that you get to do your appointments and stuff throughout your workday if you need to. That's really helpful. So cheers to that. Okay, so I'm like so curious. What does your, like, we went through work schedule. You talked a little bit about your Bible study and like stuff like that. What does church stuff, what do those things look like on a weekly basis? All of that. I'm so curious.
Yeah, so I have church on Sunday. I usually go to the 9 a.m. Up until maybe 3 months ago, I was serving with the welcome people. So I was at the New Here tent answering questions and whatnot. I have taken a break from that. I think I'm going to start doing it again after our wedding. But I was doing that and then leading a Bible study in the afternoon on Sundays too. So I was like totally drained because then I was also leading another Bible study during the week. There was too much going on. So I was like, I just need to breathe. So just going to church now, just attending. And then on Tuesdays, Rocco and I actually a couple months ago joined a Bible study. We had done a couples class at our church for people preparing for marriage. And we met this couple there who started a Bible study recently. It's mainly engaged or married couples in the Bible study, which is great because Rocco and I don't really know. We don't have any close friends here that are engaged or married. So we were like, oh, that would be awesome. People in our same stage. So we've been doing that for maybe 6 months already. So it started close to the start of the year that we were going to that, which has been awesome. And then in terms of non-organized things, after church, like I said, not after church, after work, I have a lot of time. So usually I will go to the gym before work, and then I'll have my kind of leisure reading time after work. So if I'm doing a Bible study or reading a book or something like that, that will happen after work. So Bible studying time and, all that good stuff, not, Tuesday or Sunday type of group organized situation. So, yeah. What about for you?
Yeah. It's such a like fine line between not pushing yourself and doing too much, but then also still wanting to be involved in things. And I definitely think it's also seasonal too, of what makes the most sense in this season based off of where I'm at and all the things. But I go to the 8 a.m. Well, recently actually my schedule has changed because I have been going to the 8 a.m. and then serving with my middle school girls the second service, but they are no longer middle school girls. They are now high school girls, which is so fun and sweet, but also my heart. So I am going up with them in high school, but the biggest thing is that now it's going to start being that we meet on Sunday nights, which doesn't start until the fall, but that has been a weird shift in my schedule. So I've just been going to the 8 a.m. and then just hanging out and having a whole day on Sundays. So that's been a little odd. And then Mondays, I have a small group that I help lead with a couple other girls, which is great. And so on Sundays or Mondays, I'm always off on Mondays. And so I will work on that and prepare if I'm leading that week and things like that. And so that's the fun. I love it. It's really sweet. And so one of the best blessings in my life right now. And yeah, so like church-wise, that's what things really look like. And to meet up and see people when possible and when I can, but also not stretching myself too thin in that regard. I do have a group of friends that we have, this is not church related, but we just have a standing thing that on Tuesdays we will hang out every Tuesday. I mean, and if someone can't make it, or if it's like, no, we're not going to end up doing this week, that's fine. But it's just that this night is going to be just dedicated to us seeing each other. And so it's really fun. It started with us watching Dancing with the Stars, and then Dancing with the Stars is long over, rip. But it's just a great outlet, and we just talk, we'll go out to dinner sometimes, we'll just hang, we'll watch TV. Actually, we don't really watch TV. We yap a lot. It's just a lot of yapping. And so it's just fun. So I don't know. I think that life can be so full if you allow it to be, and also finding the balance between what rest looks like and also alone time and also decompressing from work and things like that. And so, Kaylee, what does rest and alone time and decompression, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I feel like I recharge pretty quickly. I know some people really need alone time, and this is bringing me a flashback from we took a trip with our other roommate to Utah, and I think it was our other roommate, maybe you too, that were like, can we just have a second? And I was like, what do you mean you need a break from everyone? I do need some alone time, but I don't need it very often or for long periods of time. I have no problem being alone, but the alone time that I have is, because I live alone, is pretty abundant. So I don't really I wouldn't say I don't try to prioritize it. Like if I'm tired or something, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to watch a movie tonight, or I'm just going to bake some cookies or something. And 45 minutes goes by and I'm good to go. So I don't really function like, I know a lot of people really need alone time, especially if you're more introverted or something. But on the weekends and stuff where I have a bit more free time, I would say I was trying to put a percentage to it. If I had to put a percentage to the alone time versus with people, I would probably say I'm alone maybe 60% of the time. But then there's some weekends where it's 40% of the time I'm alone, and the rest I'm hosting something, or I'm going on a hike with a friend, or there's things like that. Usually if I'm with people on specifically the weekends, we're doing an activity together, we're out and about, not at someone's home. Whereas during the week, usually we're at someone's home, spending time together, which I feel like is less draining than when we're going out together, only because then we're like in public and have to be, a civilized human, which can be exhausting sometimes. But what about for you, Makayla? Because and real quick, I am in an office, but I have my own office in our suite, and everyone's working at their computer all day. So I feel like I get a lot of alone time during the day at work as well. So that could be part of it. And I know, Makayla, obviously you are dealing with people all day face to face. So I'm sure this looks a little bit different. So I want to hear kind of about yeah.
That's so funny. When you were mentioning our other roommate and we went to Utah, that definitely was more so her, which is fine. She is outgoing, but needs her space and time. And there was times when we lived with her I don't know if you remember this, but we would get so excited because she would come home and we would all be yapping and we'd follow her into her room and she'd be like, guys, please. And we would be like, oh, sorry, like take a minute. And then she'd come back after a couple hours and be fine. But it was just funny. Everyone's different. And it definitely has shifted for me becoming an adult and getting out of college and things like that, because my job is physically demanding, it's emotionally demanding, it's demanding in all of the ways. And I realized that, and I had to learn that because my roommate would come home, my roommate that I just finished living with, I would come home and she'd be like, oh, like, how are you doing? And all the things. And some days I would be like, oh, I'm good. This is how my day was. And then other days I would be like, I don't want to talk and I actually want to eat dinner by myself and things like that, just because of the weight of my day and just a lot of stress and things like that and wanting to just decompress alone. And that is something I'm excited about in terms of living by myself. Not that I don't love her and miss her and all the things, but just I'm excited to come home. And if I want to call someone, I can and yap. And then if I don't have to. And I don't have to feel obligated to like, no, I need to talk and I feel bad that I'm not engaging. But I also just can't right now. And I am extroverted in general. I love people. I recharge with people. But it has looked different since becoming an adult and me kind of navigating and understanding that and being like, no, this isn't a bad shift. This is just a part of what you do. And it is fully okay to just kind of feel out the shift and the change and understand myself and be able to communicate it to others as well. And so, but I love being with people. I love hosting. I love having people over. Once we finish this little shindig, I'm about to host a shindig because today is the 4th of July. And so I'm excited for that. And I love being with people, but also kind of finding a balance and finding a good balance for rest. And what does rest look like and who is restful? Because rest doesn't necessarily mean I need to be alone, but also it means that there are people in my life that are more draining than others. And so if it's going to feel like work, then maybe I don't need to hang out with those people, and not in a rude way, just in a practical life way. So that's what it looks like for me. But I think it's fun just to communicate that, understand that, and come to a space of being able to be like, wait, no, this isn't bad. This is just how I function, and that's okay. And it's okay that it looks different than Kaylee, because Kaylee doesn't talk to people all day. And I, meanwhile, am nonstop talking. I had a patient a couple days ago where literally every 10 to 15 minutes she was pressing her call bell and was like wanting to talk to me, and I would go into the room and would have to like, and this is going to sound so mean, but she was talking so much that I would leave the room as she was still talking, and I'd be like, I'm leaving now, and she's still talking because she just really wanted to talk. And I'm like, my role here cannot be just to talk to you all day because I have a lot of other things going on. And so like, that's just case in point. It's a lot of people. That's a lot of talking. That's a lot of things. Especially when it's someone that this isn't a friend of mine. This is someone I'm doing work for and doing all these things for. So anyways, I don't know. I think it's so fun and cool how our lives can look so different, but also at the same time how they can intersect really well. And so take time with your people and be like, hey, how do our lives look different and how do they look similar? And let's just talk about and think about how we're wired and how God created us. And it's really cool. And even to the point of what I do and Kaylee Judge does are so drastically different. But at the end of the day, it's all worship. And at the end of the day, it is all about Jesus. And I know that people have a tendency to look at healthcare and to be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, I could never, and all those types of things. You're a hero, and yada, 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 and so on and so forth. But there are phenomenal kingdom heroic things that Kaylee Judge is doing in her work and in her life that are so honorable and worth noting as well. And note those things in your life of, man, where's God just doing really cool things in my life? And so anyways, as we kind of wrap up this episode, I have one last thing to say. But before I do, Kaile Judge, do you have anything to say?
No, I don't think I do. I think Makayla's right. Talk to your people, because also I definitely learned a lot, I feel like, about Makayla's day to day, her work in particular, and how that changes so much. So it's just kind of fun to get to know your people more.
Yeah, so good. I love it. The last thing I'll say is that today is the day before Kaylee Judge's birthday, and I'm just so excited about that. And I know that she's probably like, oh my gosh, and she can cut this out if she doesn't want this in here, but I'm just so excited excited and just want to honor her and just say that I love her dearly and to pieces. And that, yeah, it's really cool because I've mentioned this a bunch, but I just never would have thought we'd be here when I first met this girl. Nope, not in the slightest. And so it's really fun to get to just do this life with her. And I just want to celebrate her. And I'm so thankful that she's born. And on top of that, I just realized this as well. This is our 20th episode, big episode. And so that's a milestone for us as well, that we have somehow sustained a podcast for 20 weeks. That's crazy. And really exciting and really big. And we said at the beginning of this that it didn't matter if one person listened or 1 million people listened, that we just thought that this was something we wanted to do and was so worth it, and wanted just to share our hearts and our lives with people. And that's what we get to do, and we're so thankful. So thank you to you, our listeners, to listening. And yeah, we're so thankful to be a part of this, and thankful that you're a part of this, because you do the listening, we do the yapping. So anyways, those are all the things I have to say. But thanks so much for joining. We love you. And this is Girl Save the Podcast. Have a great day.